Hello and welcome back to Driftwood Hollow and of course to Timberborn. Today we tackle excavators, more power and potentially bots, maybe, depending on how much time we have. But before we get into any of that, I completely forgot one thing over here, and that is grilled spatterdock. I never actually set that up. So that is the first thing we are going to do. That should just require a very simple grill. And where are we storing our spatterdock at the moment? That is grilled spatterdock storing in there. Where are we storing? That's all the way over here, right? Yeah, spatterdock is over there. I think we can go ahead and put the grilled spatterdock services over here. Since it's being stored up the top here, we can go ahead and line those doors up. This should be a very efficient process, and then we can just go ahead and set that to actually cook our grilled spatterdock because it never got done. So I'll let them build that real quick and we'll come back from there. Alright, that is done. That should now be working. We can go ahead and set that to 105%. That should be absolutely okay. And that should be the last food that we actually need. Now, of course, we don't really have that many grilled chestnuts going on. I believe I set that recipe up to be made somewhere. Yeah, over here. That is happening. They're just running low on chestnuts because we aren't really harvesting that many. And with that being said, I think we definitely need to consider adding more trees because we currently only have 145 logs. I want more than that. So I think this area over here would be an excellent candidate to do just that, and potentially even expanding into this land here. In order to do that, I will go ahead and just throw down a couple of lumberjack flags wherever I can fit them in here. That might be it for now. I can fit another one in there. We'll go into cut trees, and I will say cut anything that is on this level up there. Like so. So I'll let them deforest this forest and we'll go from there, flatten this land out, and then get some more trees being planted in this area. Alright, they are almost done with that. Our log storage is currently full, and I'm tempted to go ahead and build another one over here, specifically because we are going to be cutting trees in this area. That'll make that a little bit quicker. Plus, I feel like it's always good to have extra logs than not enough. Now, the next thing that we're going to have to deal with if we want to destroy this entire thing over here is dealing with this river. Now, we could, in theory, just blow out this section here, and that would probably be enough. But I think I want to take it a little bit step further than that. So I am going to grab myself a ladder coming down here, just so that we can go ahead and clear out some more of these trees in this area. I will just mark those for deconstruction. I think that is a perfectly reasonable thing to do. And then I think I might like to make this path come through this way. So if we have a look at our landscaping here, we can go probably just one. No, it's going to have to be, yeah, one down should be enough. If we blow all of that out, that should be fine. We can fill this in with levees for the moment, probably just to here. And then once we unlock dirt, we can make that dirt so it looks a little bit nicer. That is the general plan. So we grab ourselves some levees. They can go to there. We may have to build down to like there as well, just to make sure that everything doesn't overflow this new area over here, but I'll let them get that done, and then we'll come back from that point. And of course, we got a stranded beaver. The Hoff, come on, what are you doing? What are you doing? I know that was 100% my fault, and I think the easiest way to get you out is to just blow your way out. I think that'll be okay. These all need to be detonated immediately because I didn't realize this was currently flooding. We killed Sunset Puma in that process. I apologize profusely. That is my bad. And then I think I would also like to deconstruct these two trees just because they're kind of in the way. And then we can extend this levee out by one more, or actually probably two more if we can deconstruct that as well. It's a little bit messy the way we have to do this, but you know, we can always remove these ladders later on. So I'm going to bring a ladder to there, bring a ladder to there, grab ourselves a path that connects all of that up, and they should be able to get that pretty much finished. These are now ready to detonate. I'm not 100% sure if the Hoff is going to survive this detonation, but we will see. And yeah, they look fine. They look okay. That's good. Can you please get out of there now? Yep, perfect. This water should all evaporate very, very soon. So that should be fine. And of course, I didn't leave myself. Oh, I actually did. There is a path up here, so we can just destroy all of this. But yeah, that was a little bit messy, but I think it'll be okay. Can we get to this? Yes, we can. Perfect. We'll come back once this is all set up and I have my explosives down. All right, with that done, we now have a beautiful clear place or piece of land to go ahead and do all of this on. Now, there is a slight problem. When we have a drought, this I don't think is enough water to irrigate this. We kind of need the water to be backed up in here a little bit. And I mean, that's not hard to do. We can go ahead and demolish both of these at this point. They are no longer required. We'll get rid of that path. And honestly, do we need that ladder? I'll keep that ladder in there for now. I think that might be useful down the road. And then I will simply go ahead and throw myself a levee there and 2 dams right at the end of this, just so that this holds enough water that this is always irrigated. And I think that will be a good way to go. We need to just clean up some of this pathing, and then we should be pretty much ready to go and build ourselves another forester, as well as some lumberjack flags to get this area all filled with trees. And I'm also considering putting some more chestnut trees over in this area, since the forester should, in theory, be able to cover all of that. If we grab ourselves a forester and throw them, where do they need to sit? Probably about there is the best bet. We'll go ahead and run this out like so. Then we can grab ourselves our lumberjack flags and say 3 of them in there should be enough. And then we'll simply grab ourselves some oak trees and say, please fill that entire area there with oak trees. And then what gives us these? Chestnuts are on chestnut trees. That makes total sense. Let's go ahead and get some chestnut trees going in here, and I think I'd like to leave a little bit of room with that path, so something like that should work. Of course, that will in turn need a gatherer flag over here. That can probably just sit right there, to be completely honest with you, and they are going to prioritize chestnuts. That is the general plan, so we'll get to planting here, and then we'll come back from there. One thing I do need to make sure I do is say, do not cut trees in this area anymore. I want those trees to be available for other things. And also, go ahead and please cut all of the trees that I plant up here. That is very, very important. And you know what? While we're planting these, and while I have these lumberjack flags here not doing anything, we may as well say, hey, cut all of this as well, because why not? Right. I believe that these guys can access a decent chunk of that. Maybe not as much as I thought, but you know what? That's okay. They can access more than we have now anyway, so I'm happy to do that. We will jump into a time lapse as we get this done though. Alright, we've got a decent amount of it planted. I think we can move on from this. They will slowly do that in the background. We currently have 14 vacancies, which is not ideal. And honestly, with 40,000 science, I'm tempted to just go through here and see how much we can unlock before we run out. I wish I could press shift and click on these to unlock them, but apparently that is not the case. I just want to see whether or not we actually need science anymore. The answer is probably yes, but you never know. All right, so we got everything except for the Fountain of Joy and the Earth Cultivator. What does this do? Distributes tree seeds across the earth. When launched, makes the beavers in the area extra happy. Okay, well that's kind of fun. So it looks like we need about 32,000 more science, so I'm going to let that keep building up. I mean, these 13 vacancies aren't the worst thing in the world. These shouldn't have anyone in them, so we have 8 vacancies in here. That is the majority of it. The rest is probably in our holding post, which I don't love, but it's okay for now. Plus, once all these storages get filled up, they will stop working at their current jobs and do other things. So I think it's generally okay. Why do we not have any cattail crackers? We have the flour. Okay, it's just, this is bugged again. Let's get that going. And in theory, yep, now it's fixed. So I don't know what the bug is. I think it's a bug with the mod that does the automation thing. Sometimes buildings just stop working. I have to keep an eye on this up here just to make sure that we are keeping stock of everything. But you know, that is what it is. I will also mention, you may have noticed in the time lapses in this episode, it hasn't gotten dark. That is because in the Timprove mod, I did turn on no daylight change, just so that it's not flashing as much during longer time lapses. But with that all being said and done, more trees in the area, absolutely fantastic. That should definitely help us out. I think it is now time to go ahead and start working on the excavators. The question is, do we have enough power? The answer is probably no, although maybe. And I think the answer is only maybe if we end up actually connecting these two systems, which should, in theory, be pretty easy to do. We can do that under here. It will involve a little bit of demolition, but I think in the long term, that's going to be absolutely okay. So I think the general plan here is basically to run an underground cable, an underwater cable, I should say. So I think the best spot to probably do that is right here. But we can probably lay the foundation of this before we lay the main thing. So let's jump into our power. I'm going to run a power shaft. Okay, I want to avoid that if I can. So we'll come across like so, and then we'll just sort of hug the edge of the river. I think that's absolutely okay. This is a pretty convoluted power cable, but you realistically won't see it very often because it is under the ground here. I want to get rid of that one. That was an accident. And then we can just run this straight through like so. And actually you can run these underneath of platforms, which I didn't actually know, but that is fantastic. And then we can just delete that last one there, throw in some vertical ones, and then just a simple straight one into there should connect that all up. Now, in terms of this side, if we grab our verticals, I think I would like it in the corner. It doesn't particularly need to be in the corner. I would also like to run this now fully against that riverbed. And then grab this one, make sure this is a vertical power shaft. No, that doesn't need to be vertical. That can go there, that can go there. And that, in theory, should just connect everything up nice and neatly. We didn't have to deconstruct a single thing. I don't know if they're going to be able to build all of it, although in looking at it, they should be able to. We may just need a couple more paths running around here. So let's just line this with path as well, just because we can. I mean, it's underwater. If they want to hang out under here, they absolutely can. It's not super encouraged, but you know, beavers be doing beaver things. And that should be good. So let's go ahead, turn off water here. I'll hide the UI and we'll get this built out. And that is all now functional, and we should have an amount of power in here. It's probably not going to be enough. Current supply is 595. That is all from our windmills. And the current demand is 460, but we also have these batteries that are what were being charged for just a second there. They are now no longer being charged, but everything should now, in theory, be running while we have droughts and bad tides, which is fantastic. All right, next thing, like I said, is going to be the excavator. So we'll jump into our landscaping here, grab ourselves a dirt excavator, And where do I want this? Maybe down here. I don't love that positioning, but I also don't hate it. I think I would like to tuck it back a little bit. Let's send it out. Let's get a storage in first. Let's do that. Is this in these or is it in the other? This is in an underground storage, so we can absolutely go ahead and do that. Grab an underground storage. That can sit right there. I think we'll be fine. That will be for dirt. And then we'll run this straight across and we'll see how this excavator fits in with our plans at the moment. It looks like it can sort of run off the edge, which I'm okay with. If we sit it there, sure. Sits off the edge a little bit, but I'm okay with that. We'll go ahead and just extend this path out, and that should be good to go. I am only going to build one of these at the moment, and I'm probably going to say only get 2 workers in here. We don't need a ton of dirt just yet, but I wanted to at least unlock it. And what's next? There are 2 options, right? We could either start working on bots, which I don't hate for sure, because, well, we currently have a few dangerous buildings. This has a 2% per hour injury rate. Our mines have a 1.5% per hour injury rate. I would love to get those replaced by bots. But the second option is to try and tame these bad water sources and at least get a little bit of power out of here. It will also help us clean up this area in here a little bit more, which, yeah, is interesting. If I was to do this, I think I would go ahead and cap both of these off, almost destroy this channel or potentially run another one over the top because it is 3 wide, which is a little bit annoying. Make a tank back here and then use sluice gates to go ahead and regulate the water flow. That's one option. That is one option. We would have to keep in mind that we are pumping this bad water down here, but I think for our beavers' well-being, I think we should probably go ahead and start working on bots instead. This needs power, which it currently does not have. That is a fantastic point. Okay, the paper mill may have to get destroyed for a second here then. Yeah, let's go ahead and get rid of the paper mill. We don't really need it at the moment anyway. I will also go ahead and remove the dirt excavator. That'll be okay. And then we'll just dynamite a little channel in here that we can run some power cables through. And that should pretty much sort that problem out. Right, that is now connected up to power. It, however, is not connected to a path, apparently. That is why it requires a ladder out the front. That makes sense. So we will go ahead and set that ladder up, and just like so, throw a path on top of that, and then this should be fully operational. And yes, this is now running. It takes 4 hours to produce 6 dirt. In turn, that should allow us to actually use the mud pit that I did not realize required dirt. So that should be fantastic. All right, let's do bots. So in order to get bots, we need a couple of things. We need the bot part factory. We need a bot assembler. These are fairly heavy on the power use, so power is definitely going to be a struggle here for a little bit. And we also need a refinery. That refinery will probably end up using potatoes and water. It seems like the most efficient use of our space and time, and honestly could probably live over here near both of those things. We have the water up here. I wouldn't mind. Is that a terrible idea? Just throwing it right in there? It feels like a terrible idea. I feel like we should keep it with our industry. They're going to have to do a little bit more hauling to get this done, but I think it's going to be worthwhile in the long run. Let's just go ahead and throw it right on top of that storage building there. It will automatically connect, and then we can go ahead and grab ourselves another medium warehouse facing into not there because that ladder is the wrong direction. That's kind of annoying, actually. Let's, I guess, throw it there, leave a 1 gap. And this can be for our biofuel, which is probably, now that I'm thinking about it, a liquid. So storage, Large tank can fit there, which is nice. That makes me a lot happier. And this is going to be for biofuel. So that will sit in there. Next up is going to be the bot part factory. And I believe we need 3 of these. What are you storing? You are storing treated planks. I honestly hate the position of this building because I would love to run something else. Let's go ahead and move that to there. That is going to be treated planks. This is going to be set to... Well, we can just delete it. It'll be fine. And then we can get our bot part factories running along here. So we need 3 of these. We can go ahead and stack them, and I might do just that. And then I believe they are going to each need a warehouse of their own. So let's stack those up something like so. Grab ourselves our paths, connect that all up, grab ourselves a ladder or 7, and throw ladders in there, there, and there. Connect this all up. 1 more ladder, please, on top of that, like so. Path, that can be a path, that can be a path, that can be a path. And that should be our bot factories ready to go. Now we need to set a recipe. So bot chassis in one of them. We need bot limbs in another, and bot heads in the third. I'll let them get that done. Actually, we may as well just start building the bot assembler as well. Why not? And we can throw that right in there. Makes the most sense to me. And do bots need to be stored once they are fully done? Probably not, because they are bots. That is all bot stuff. That should be fine. Let's see if that won't work. That won't work because that doesn't have power. Alright, let's move it then. Does it need power? Yes. Yes, it does. The answer to that question is yes. Yes, it does. So maybe we throw it in... That ladder is going to be in the way. Let's throw it in there. Grab ourselves our power. And we can just, for now, run cable running that way. And that should be okay. So I'll let them get that done and we'll come back from there. We did reach a new happiness level. I imagine that is because we have the grilled spatter dock in stock now, and we also have the mud pit up and running. Fantastic. There we go. Now everyone is happy. The only thing that is not super happy is our power, although we are still meeting demand. But I think it's time to go ahead and add more windmills, and I think I would like to do that on the opposite side over here. Why can't I add a windmill there? Is that because of the trees? That is very annoying. Okay, well, let me go ahead and add these windmills in. We'll figure it out together. I think it'll be okay. That is in the right spot, yeah? Yeah, perfect. So 1, 2, there. I'll come back. Alright, the only thing left to do now is go ahead and connect these up to power. And I think the best bet is probably to do that at the front here. We can always, if we need to, go ahead and say add another row of this. That is not the right height. Let me go ahead and fix that up real quick. Demolish. Okay, just demolish all of that then. And I'll do that again. It is 2 high at the bottom and 3 high at the top, not 2 high the whole way across. Grab ourselves the path, connect that up. Then we'll go ahead and demolish the path going across the front there, just so that we have access to everything at all times. I know that it's not particularly necessary for a system like this, but, you know, better to be safe than sorry. So I'll let them finish that, and then we should have, in theory, more than enough power to run everything that we need. Alright, and with that all hooked up, we should now have plenty of power. We've got 5,135. That is all running into our batteries. I hope that's enough. I hope it is. We also are getting some bot parts coming out, which is fantastic. What is going on here? Unlock this workplace for bots. That costs 10,000 science? Excuse me? Okay, apparently we do need science. I really regret spending all my science on that now. But it is what it is. at the very least, our trees are all planted over here. That's nice. Yeah, I did not realize that I had to unlock the fact that bots can work in the workplace. That is, okay, it changes depending on the workplace. That is good at least. I think the first one that I would like to unlock is probably the dirt extractor. How many bots do we currently have? We have 2 bots that can't really do anything. That's a shame. Okay, yeah, it's expensive everywhere. 750, okay, that's more reasonable. We could get them working in our bakeries, but I don't really want them to. We can get them working in, okay. They can work in the farmhouses. Yes, let's do that. That'll at the very least free up some of our beavers to do other things. Now, of course, we don't have enough bots to do that just yet, but we will slowly build up a little bit of a surplus. So next things next, I suppose, let's tackle this bad water source. We shouldn't need a whole bunch of bad water for anything else in the short term. If we do, where would we get it from? I guess from over here. But I'm just going to ignore that for the moment and figure this out over here. I think that'll be okay. So what we need to do this is water, and we want a bad water dome. That is going to go over both of these. Now, these are relatively expensive, 100 planks, 200 cogs, and 100 metal. We should, in theory, have all of that readily available to us. We just need to figure out how to build this without our beavers getting into the bad water, which should, in theory, be relatively easy to do with some paths, and specifically some platforms. If we just run platform going like so, I believe that'll allow them to access both. Now, unfortunately, trees don't make this easy. So instead, we might have to do something like that. Then run our path along here, along here, along here. We can demolish that tree, that's fine. And then we need to figure out a way for them to get up here, which honestly is probably just going to be a whole bunch of ladders. We already have some access over here, so we can just extend that ladder up, bring that over, and then come in through this way, I suppose. So I'll figure out a path up here and then we'll come back from there. All right, that's going to take them a little bit. In the meantime, while they were doing that, we did unlock ourselves 9 more bots, so I can go ahead and switch all of our farms over to that. I would also probably like that to be Builder's Hut. Sure, why not? That is 1 vacancy left. If I could switch the hauling post over as well, I think that would be fantastic. But right now, we're already down to 7 vacancies. We do have 8 incapacitated. I should probably go ahead and add some medical beds over here by the excavator. That seems like it might be worth doing. So I'll go ahead and do something like that, just because I know that they are going to get injured over here. And, you know, I'd like to be able to deal with that. I might even go ahead and throw some more right down there, just to cover our bases. Make sure that we always have enough hospital beds to make our beavers happy. This is coming along slowly but surely. It looks like we've got all of the materials in here, which is fantastic. We just need to wait for someone to come along and actually finish the construction, which should be happening right about now, as long as you don't get too tired in the process. And that is our first Badwater Dome officially complete. Now, this one is going to take a little bit longer, but that is okay. Everything looks like it's running fairly well. We have a decent amount of food. Everyone is pretty happy. The only thing we're missing a little bit on is the grilled chestnuts, but that is coming along. Injuries not great. I think we can go ahead and add some more of our recreation type buildings. And there may be room in here to do it. Thankfully, we already unlocked them all, so that's fantastic. We have a contemplation spot. Contemplate nature. Where would you guys like to do that? Maybe up here? You guys can absolutely contemplate some nature over there. That seems like a decent view of a whole bunch of dead trees. Where else could you contemplate some nature? Maybe over here? Sure, why not? I don't see a reason not to. Again, you're probably mostly looking at dead trees and ruins, but you know, you'll get over it. That should be nice. Then what else can we unlock here? We have that, we have that, we have that, we have that. The Lido is a place to relax by the river. Something like that. That works. That fits. I'd be okay with that. Let's get that in there. What else have we got? We've got a herbalist. That's probably somewhat important. Creates an antidote that cures contaminated beavers. Do we have all of those ingredients? I believe we do. Dandelions, maybe not. Do we have dandelions? I don't think we do, and I'm not 100% sure how to get them. Is that just a thing that we can plant? I don't know. I actually don't know. It's something we have to plant with our forester. So we could potentially get some dandelions going up here. Something like that. You should be able to reach almost all of that. We'll cancel those last 3. I don't know how many we need, but that's what I'm going to do for now. And then we'll, I assume, just grab one of these guys, prioritize dandelions. You can harvest those. We will need some storage for that, although we can potentially just use the gatherer flag storage for the time being. That might be okay. If not, I mean, we could probably just add like a small storage or 2 in here, right? Something like that. We throw in that and say, you are for dandelions, you are for dandelions, you are for dandelions. And we make sure that is connected up to the path. That should make that nice and happy. All right, what's next? We have the herbalist is what we just did. They will also require another storage or 2. So let's go 3 more storages in there. And that is for antidote, which is potentially a liquid. Because of course it is. Why wouldn't it be? If that's the case, let's go in. Let's mark that for deconstruction. Grab our storage and grab a large storage container there. And that can be for antidote. Perfect. All right, that works for me. Next up is going to be the Agora. And this is a relatively large building. A large gathering place where beavers can discuss timber-related topics. Must be built on the ground. Where do we want to put this? I think I want it somewhat close to all of this. The question is, can we fit it in? We may have to go ahead and destroy some of our berry bushes, although maybe not. Oh, it's so close. I think I would like it there. That is exactly where I would like it. And that means we finally get to use our dirt. I don't know 100% what the arrow means, but I'm going to assume that that is okay to be placed there. And then we should be able to come back into our well-being and throw down our Agora on top of that with a nice little path running out to it. Perfect. All right, after that is the carousel. I think this requires power, which is honestly a little bit annoying. Carousel. I could throw it on top of this building. It wouldn't have power immediately though. Carousel could potentially come out on the river here, like in the middle of the water. Or we could build it in the middle of the water over here. Then we could easily run power to it. The question is, where would I want it? Maybe there, actually. Yeah, I think I like that. So let's go ahead and build some platforms for that to sit on. That will be 2 and 2. I believe that gets us above the ground. And then we can come into well-being, grab ourselves our carousel, throw that up just like so. Grab ourselves our, not that, those please. They can come in just like so. And then instead of doing it the way that I just did it, I'm going to remove that and get rid of one of these corners here and instead replace it with a vertical power shaft, which is going to remove one of those paths, get that up to there, well-being, and get our carousel right on top of there. We just need one more platform so that we can actually get to it, and that should, in theory, be good. I just need to make sure my paths are reconnected down here, like so. Fantastic. All right, next is the detailer, who can customize beavers' tails. You can sit in there. That is absolutely okay with me. You're going to use a little bit of extract. I'm okay with that. I don't know if we need more than one. And then we have a dance hall, which could probably sit... Does it fit in here? Not quite. It's so close. That's a great question. I mean, we could sit it right over here just with this one. Yeah, let's do that. Let's fill this in and get that working over there. So this is going to be like so, and like so. And we'll grab well-being, dance hall, and throw that in right about there. Connect that up. And the last thing is the mud pit, which we already have. We could potentially build another mud pit and another fireplace, but I want to see how all of that construction goes first. So let's turn off the UI for a minute and just see how this goes. Realistically, that is going to take a while, mostly because they are actually still working up here. And this in of itself is going to take a while. It turns out these weren't even necessary, so we can go ahead and remove them with absolutely no consequences. We did build something else, I think. I don't know what it was, but they are happier than they used to be, so that's good, I guess. We still have 19 vacancies, and I mean, we have another farmhouse here. Let's immediately switch that over to bots. That's probably not enough, but our storage is at capacity for these anyway, so having less bots in here than we have anyway is probably okay. 15 vacancies in our beavers is still a little bit concerning though. Science is going up, but it's rather slow because of that, because these aren't being used. Yeah, that is a little bit rough. I'm also curious how long the bots live for. Like, is this something where if the bot gets injured, it dies, or does it... Bot is out of fuel. I mean, we have plenty of biofuel. Are you just going to path back to that? Yes, the answer is yes, so that is good. We can also get catalysts and punch cards to boost their productivity, I guess. Interesting. Okay, well, we have a lot of stuff to build, so... Oh, this is done. Amazing. Perfect. For now, I'm going to open both of these up because we aren't working on this just yet. I think this is going to be a project for the very next episode. But yeah, let's go ahead and watch a time lapse as we build all of this stuff out. And as our beavers have a little bit of a dance party to celebrate, they are very, 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 very happy. 31 out of, I don't know what it is. It apparently went down to 29, but that's okay. We have the campfire, we have the rooftop terrace, we have the contemplation spot. Looks like we may need more of those. The only things we're missing are aesthetics and ore. We also have the carousel should be functional, so all of that should be working. So yeah, it is just aesthetics, ore, and books that we don't have just yet, but that's okay. I believe that is all of that working. This doesn't have a connection to a path because it needs a ladder. Of course it does. Why would you not need a ladder? All right, let's throw a ladder in. That should be the final piece of the puzzle. And there we go. Does anyone use it? Yes, they do. That looks like a fun ride over the water. I like it. And I like our little settlement that we've got going on. It's looking developed for sure. There's not a lot of room for expansion. I am curious whether or not we actually need to tame these. It doesn't look like we do. It doesn't look like we do at all. But I think we still will have at least one more episode where we try and maybe get our happiness as high as we can possibly get it. Get them some decorations, get them some books, get them the other things that they need. Some of these monuments, which may require more beavers. We can probably manage more beavers at the moment, to be completely honest with you. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for this episode. I think it was a little bit of a shorter one just because of how many time lapses we had, but we made some huge progress today. We connected our power grids, we got dirt excavation up and running, we got bots up and running, we got a whole bunch of recreation for our beavers, and things are looking very, very good here in Driftwood Hollow. If you guys have enjoyed the series, go ahead and make sure to leave a like and a comment for the sake of engagement. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. Consider becoming a member of the channel if you would like early access to the videos, a golden panda if you would like your name in the game, and if you don't have the means to support me, that is absolutely okay. We do have one more means of which you can support me now. I have dropped some Amazon affiliate links down in the description. If you guys are buying anything on Amazon, go ahead and click on one of those before you purchase. I will get a small commission. You won't pay any extra. Everyone wins. Happy days. But with all that being said, and until next time, happy building, happy surviving. Nope, happy damming. Bye guys.